Today's guest shouldn't even be here. She survived a horrific accident. What's it like being electrified?
I feel like it's just changed the way I see things now, because I basically nearly died. I think another 5 minutes later they got me up, and obviously because they were moving my body I woke up again, and all I saw, all these people, there was at least about 50 people there, outside the station. It was quite traumatic. Me and my mum never got on growing up. I'm quite a broken person. I've gone through a lot for me to be the person I am today. Personally, I'm not going to blame anyone, but the way some people made me feel that day, I won't even forgive them.
Today's guest shouldn't even be here. She survived a horrific accident. However, she's turned that all around. She's a high-profile influencer. She works with great brand deals, and today she's going to tell us all about her story. So welcome, Dinusha.
Thank you.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Well, I've got a deep question.
Yeah. What's
it like being electrified or electrocuted, shall I say?
Yeah, so obviously it's not a nice feeling. I've got burnt, but I feel like it's just changed the way I see things now, because I basically nearly died, and that I think always opens up something to there's a purpose on why I survived this sort of thing, you know?
Do you ever have them feelings of, or do you even have memory of that moment?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I was pretty drunk. That's another thing. I basically, the day it happened, I was drinking. It was my first time drinking, underage drinking. I was 15. And yeah, I got into that situation. I don't know how, but basically my heel fell on the tracks. And as I went to get it, because I was stupid enough to go get it, I don't know why, I saved the heel but not myself. I went to get the heel and I got it, and as one of the boys that was there was like, oh, what are you doing, the train is 2 minutes away, come back up, what are you doing? And I was just like, okay, whatever, I'll come up. Anyway, he tried to give me his hand and I stepped on the wrong rail, and where the electric goes through, and that was it. My whole leg just started shaking, and then I just collapsed on the floor, and yeah, it was pretty traumatic.
Before we go deep into that, wow, damn, that's quite a deep situation. A lot of people would never face anything like that, and at such a young age. Yeah. But I suppose that incident, that thing that's happened all them years ago, must have changed the direction of your life to where you are today.
Yeah, 100%. That obviously now I know the dangers of the train tracks as well, which I didn't know when I was 15. No one really knew, because where I grew up in Italy, they don't have the train settings as the way they have it in England. It doesn't run on the floor, if that makes sense. It's all on the
above.
Yeah, above. So I never knew anything about it, and people in Italy used to always cross the rails and stuff like that. And for me, that was a massive shock to even find that out. When it happened to me, I was like, what? How am I meant to know that? Do you know what I mean? Because I grew up in a country where that was normal and loads of people done it, and then when I actually done it here, it was kind of whoa, do you know,
that's quite deep. Yeah. It's something very unexpected, really.
Yeah.
What does a normal day look like for you now?
In what sense?
Your normal average day. What will you be doing tomorrow or this week?
So I've got a few busy things coming up. I've got a shoot next week, because I do modelling as well on the side.
What sort of modelling?
So it's all fashion modelling or music videos. I mean, I've kind of stepped back into the music videos because I just don't enjoy it as much as I used to.
Have you been in any famous music videos?
Yeah, so I think the most famous one was definitely Akon. That was probably one of the biggest achievements.
Wow.
that was really good.
Which song was that?
It's called Probably Fuck. It's called Probably Fuck. That's what it's called. I actually done it with one of my friends as well. She actually was the one that got me involved.
So do you have to learn how to dance for that, or
you just kind of do your own thing, you just start dancing, just freestyle really. You don't have to learn it. They have actual dancers there that do that. But yeah, you just kind of have to be in the background, like looking like you're enjoying yourself, which I was until a certain extent, because it does get, like, after 14 hours of filming, there's so much energy you can give, do you know what I mean? And then you're like, I just want to go home. But yeah, no, I did really enjoy myself. But yeah, it's just...
How do you get to working with Akon on his music video?
Yeah, I don't really know.
The guy's got his own currency in his country.
I don't really know. I think when you go to like these events, you meet people and you connect with them, and yeah, you just make contacts, and somehow they know other people, and then those other people will get them involved, and they're like looking for models and stuff like that. And my friend Mel, I think she was in this podcast before, yeah.
Melly.
And yeah, Melly, that's how we call, yeah, I just call her Mel, I don't know why. But yeah, Melly, she actually just messaged me once, and she was like, oh, like there's a good opportunity for me. Basically, she always messages me and my other friend Amber, like we're like a little trio. Nice. And we all got involved in the influencer industry at the same sort of time. Wow. So we all support each other and help each other. And yeah, she just put in the chat, and I was like, I'm taking the day off work, I'm coming for Akon, like there's no way I'm missing this opportunity.
Calling in sick.
Yeah, literally, I was like, I'm not coming in. Like it's like once in a lifetime experience, do you know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, I'm coming. And
how much you get paid?
I don't actually remember now.
Was it a lot of money, or was it just like a day rate or something?
No, it wasn't a lot of money, but
it's great.
I mean, they had a lot of people, but it was more about the opportunity. I feel like you can't always expect to get paid unless you're big. Like you can't expect to always get paid at things. Do you know
what's Akon like?
He's actually really nice. Like there was that's when I actually realised he was nice, and it sounds like stupid, but me and Mel wanted to take a picture with him, and we were the first one, like, we're going to take that picture, do you know what I mean? Just in case we're not making the music video as much. I mean, we still did, we were still in the video a bit, but it wasn't like a picture, do you know what I mean, that you can keep as a memory. And obviously we all grew up listening to Akon. I mean, back in the day, he was the guy, wasn't he? Like, he had some sick, like, songs.
You're so beautiful.
I know, literally, like, yeah. And we were the first one, and we were like, oh, can we take a picture? And he was like, yeah. And then this girl gets involved, and she's like, oh, we might as well all do it. And we're like, we don't really want you in it, but anyway.
Oh, no.
I know, because you want your own personal picture that, like, obviously she's one of my best mates, so it's fine for her to be in it, but we just wanted our own picture, so we were like, okay. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And then Akon was like, no, it's fine. I got time for everyone, like, it's fine. And I was like, oh, you're so nice. Like, he was actually just down to earth, like a normal guy. Like, he was just really nice. I just thought, like, you wasn't like up yourself, you know, like most people can be in that industry. Like, even people that only got probably like 1 million followers that just like think there's something they're not. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you can have all those followers, but it depends on like your personality and how you are as a person. Like, and I felt like he's got all this like money, he's got all this fame, and he's still a nice guy. Like, he's still saying, oh, I've got time for everyone, when normally people are like, oh, this is long, like, I don't want to take a picture, do you know what I mean? And yeah, he had time for everyone, and he was just really nice. So yeah,
I think he gets to a level that people think they're above everybody once they get to a certain status level.
100%.
You know, obviously, even becoming a millionaire at a younger age for myself, I didn't let that sort of change me.
Yeah.
But I see the places I got invited around people who weren't even as big as me, how they act like they're really something, and the way they order the waiters around, like, get me that now, or
do you know who I am? Like,
it's a little bit like, what's
I know,
that
I've
about?
had that.
And then obviously in the social media world is, oh, I got 500,000 followers, so what, you got a 10k, please, like, you know.
Yeah,
it's just like,
no, that's so true.
What does it actually mean?
Yeah, no, it's just, yeah, because when I go to events, there's sometimes like girls I've met at other events, and they'll be nice to, like, let's say I went to an event yesterday or something, and I'd see them like the week after, and because they have their own like little group, they won't speak to me or even make any eye contact, but they see me, like, they can see me, do you know what I mean? And I know they can see me. And they won't even talk to me, and the only time they do talk to you is if they're on their own and they feel a bit awkward, so they like come up to you and like start being all nice, but then the next time they'll just completely blank you, like they never even spoke to you. And I'm like, you know, like, it's kind of like rude. Like if I see someone
Fake.
I know, I'll just go, oh hi, okay, how are you? Like, you know, that's it. Like we don't have to talk for ages, but like it's nice to be like, hi, like you okay? Like, no, do you know what I mean?
Of course.
And yeah, me and my friend went to an event literally on Thursday, and there was this girl, and she actually was like with us the whole night. So there's no way of her like forgetting us. It was literally like 2 weeks ago, and she looked at us and just like blinked twice and just carried on talking to her friends. I was like, you rude bitch. Like, why would you do that? And like, my friend gets more ag than me. I don't really care. I'm just like, whatever. Like, you don't mean nothing to me. Do you know what I mean? I don't really care. Like, I'm my own person. I don't need more friends anyway. Like, but it's just nice to be nice. Do you know what I mean?
Of course. You mentioned something a little bit earlier on, and that was Melly, and then you had another friend as well that you mentioned, and you let each other know about opportunities.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's really rare to find someone who's real.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'd say Melly is 100% real. Like, me and her got into it at the same time. And I think I remember she was like, oh, I don't live that far from you. And I was like, oh my God, let's meet up. And like, we met up for food. And then since then we just spoke about social media and stuff like that. And like, how do these people get collabs? How do they do this and that? Well, like, we had following, but we just didn't know how to go about getting all these stuff. So yeah, we just spoke about it, and like both of us just like reaching out to like brands or restaurants and stuff like that, or they'll reach out to us and then go from there, sort of thing. Like, I remember when we got our first collab, I think I went with Mel actually, and I was like, oh my God, this is sick. You can get free food and all you have to do is promote it. Like, that is amazing. Like, who wouldn't want that? And I thought, oh my God, is this actually like the life people are living? I'm like, I need to get into it more and more. And like, I think after you do it a few times, you meet the right people, and then those people know other people, and they're like, oh yeah, I work with this person, and I'm like, okay, let's reach out to that person and see where that could get me. And it took so long to get to the point that we are now. Like, what we are now, like, it's actually mad how much stuff like we get out of it, and how much you could get paid and stuff like that.
Can you name us a few things you get out of it?
Yeah, so like obviously like restaurant collabs, like you go to restaurants, you take a few pictures or videos.
Do you call them beforehand? Is
no,
it done
so
on a website?
Like,
or?
now I don't really reach out to them because most of them come to me, sort of thing, and I know what I can give them anyway, so I don't really go out of my way to reach out, because it can drain your life sometimes. You know what I mean? There's so many like emails that you can send, and then you're like, oh, like, this is too much. I've already got a full-time job. I'm a mum of 2, so it's like it gets too much. So now I just normally just let them reach out to me, and they're like, oh, would you like to come in and do like a 3-course meal? We'd like for you to come and with a +1, so I'll take like a friend or my partner or whoever, and you go there and just take a few pictures or videos, and then you just post it on your either story or post, or as a reel or on TikTok, and then that's it. And then you just get the free food. And like, you know, like for example, let's say, oh, you want to go on a date tonight, you haven't done it in a while, and then they reach out to them, I'm like, oh, let's get this date booked in, and let's do it. And you just don't spend any money, and it's just nice. But at the same time, like, they do expect a lot as well. Like, sometimes you don't reach the right category for them. Like, if let's say you want to go to a posh restaurant, and if your Instagram is not like posh restaurants, or you haven't been to a posh restaurant, it's kind of like, oh, like, we can't offer you that at the moment. They'll say that, something like that. Or they'll say, oh, maybe when you got a bit more following and stuff like that, which is fine to get rejections. Like, I think you're going to get rejections whether it's in relationships, in business. Like, you're always going to get rejection, do you know what I mean? And I got that a lot when I first started working with brands and restaurants and stuff like that, which is fine. But then I go to the next thing and they want me, do you know what I mean? So you just always have to take the opportunity, do you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely. You mentioned something like, you know, you have to take some pictures for the restaurant. Do you ever feel like any pressure in terms of, hey, what if I do this, like especially a reel, and maybe only 500 people watch this reel, where normally the algorithm knows you're a fashion blogger and what you normally post on, and it gives you 10, 20, 30,000 views, and this hits 500, and a restaurant's inviting you. Do you feel like pressure on yourself?
I do. Yeah, I do. I always, do you know what? That's one thing I always say to my partner. I'm like, oh, like, wait, if it's not good enough, like, do you think this looks? I have to ask at least a few people before I post it, because I'm like, I need your opinion. Obviously, I've got a lot better throughout the years. But when I first started, I was like, oh my god, is this good enough? Like, does it look professional? Does it look cool for Instagram? Do you know what I mean? Does it look good? And yeah, like, it is a lot of pressure, because you feel like, oh, like, they've given, because I'm always so thankful for the things that I get out of, like, social media. Do you know what I mean? And I want to help them as much as they're helping me. So I always want to leave it as, like, happy and they're satisfied. Like, to be honest, I've had a few restaurants where I've gone to one, let's say, like, just one, and then they'll, like, say, oh my god, like, we've done so well, like, thank you so much, like, would you like to come back again on, let's say, next year, or like in a couple of months time, we'd love to have you back. And I'm like, oh, like, that's nice, at least, like, they're giving me feedback that is good, do you know what I mean? So, or I'd message them and be like, oh, how did it go, like, did you get anything out of it? And they're like, oh, like, yeah, or no, or yeah, like, a little bit, like, do you know what I mean? I always like to have a review, so I know what I can offer for the next brand or the next restaurant. Do you know what I mean?
Does any of this give you, like, feedback what you're actually good at or not? Because the audience sometimes tells you, we don't like you eating food, or we don't like you on the catwalk. So is there something that you've noticed? Oh, I get a lot of good views when I do a certain niche.
Yeah, so I feel like the restaurant and the brand's collabs was more like boredom out in lockdown, just after lockdown. Or maybe, yeah, during lockdown. That's when I started doing the fashion stuff. And then once I'd done the fashion stuff, obviously people were telling me, oh, you could get restaurants once. So I was like, oh, I'll go into restaurants. So I got really addicted to going to all these fancy, nice restaurants. And I love food. So I was like, yeah. I started going through a phase where I was doing loads of restaurants. So then your algorithm changes and it's all about food. Yeah. But I don't want to make it about food. So I kind of stopped that and then just go whenever I can, sort of thing, like, work around me, sort of thing. My niche that I'd like it to be, it's more about body positivity. That's what I'm trying to change it to, because the last few years it's all been about everything. Do you know what I mean? Traveling, kids, you know, just myself, and I just want to, I do want to make it about everything, but I also want to make it about myself, which is like trying to be more positive with your body and be kind to yourself, because everyone's different. Do you know what I mean? It's not all about looking the greatest on Instagram, and I feel like that's what I've been doing, and I don't want people to think, oh, like, she's so confident, look at her, like, she's so nice. And it's like, no, you don't see the backside of what I go through to, I don't know, it's weird. Like, it's like, if you take a picture and it's a nice picture, you post it, okay, and then you're like, oh, like, I hope people don't, like, compare themselves to me. And I just wish I was more open about it. Like, okay, I can look good after 2 kids, but actually, no, I've got stretch marks. I want to be showing that off as well, to people to realise that, like, actually, no, like, she's not as perfect as she makes it out to be. And I've had people throughout the years to be like, oh, like, just because you're confident. And I'm like, yeah, I'm confident in myself, but it doesn't mean I'm not, I still don't have bad days where I actually cry by it. I've actually got a lot of scars. I've had 2 kids at a young age. I've got scars from that as well. Like, and it's one of them things, it's like, I'm not always confident, and I don't want people to think I'm always 100% like confident, because I'm not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean, but a lot of people compare.
Yeah, they do.
We're in a society of everyone's comparing, and people are like sheep.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I'll say something that is a little bit bold, and they're like, yeah, but that's not right, because, and it's like, hang on, it might not be right for you.
Yeah.
Because you're following the whole herd.
Yeah.
You know, and so, like, so posting a picture of yourself and by showing your own stretch marks and things like that, isn't that not following, you know, the herd sort of thing? Like, you're getting yourself spray tanned and photoshopped, and so people going, oh, 1 million likes. Like, other people going, actually, I don't really like that sort of picture.
Yeah.
And you're putting yourself out there, which is quite bold. Like, how do you deal with that?
So when I first started, my partners, like, some of his friends, not all of them, they all had big opinions. They were like, oh, how do you let her do that? And it's like, what do you mean? Like, I'm my own person, I can do what I want. Like, he doesn't tell me what to do. But the thing is, with my partner, he's really comfortable. We're really comfortable together, and he loves the fact that I'm like that. Because even before I met him, I was always quite confident. Like, even before I had my accident, I was always quite confident with what I wore, with how I am. Like, I've always been quite confident. But when I started getting bullied, I kind of slowed that down and just started hating myself after my accident, because I lost a lot of weight, and like I just started hating myself a lot. And I always used to be like, oh, like all my friends are getting like boy attention and I'm not, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? And there was nothing wrong with me, it was just that I was very insecure in myself, and I used to judge everyone, be like, oh, how's she wearing that, or what's she doing, like why is she looking at me, am I looking horrible? Like, and I used to always cover myself, like all my scars I will be covered, like there's no way I would wear something like tiny and you know, like get away with it sort of thing, like, because I just felt like everyone was just staring. And because when it first happened, my scars were a lot more out there. Like, obviously now they've healed a bit better now, and I've had a few surgeries since, so it's like it's better now. But like back then it was just like, oh my god, like this is so like hard for me to deal with. And I used to always hate myself, I used to cry every day about it. And then when I started getting confident, and like my partner's friends having opinions, that knocked me down as well. I was like, oh, like, should I not be like that? Like, should I just be the person that I once was, where I was so insecure and hated myself? But then I'm like, no, like I'm not gonna like change for anyone, I'm just gonna be myself. If I want to post a bikini picture, I will post a bikini picture, and if they have a problem with it, that's their own like insecurity. It's their own insecurity, and it's also something they wouldn't want their girlfriends doing. But I feel like you can't tell your girlfriend or your boyfriend you can't tell them what to do. I'm sorry, like I just feel like, why do you have such a big opinion about that? Just because you didn't know me like that and I want to be like that now doesn't mean like I'm still not the same person. Do you know what I mean? I'm just a bit more confident with myself. And I just think now I don't actually take anyone's opinion into like my emotions, because it just mentally drains me and I start crying about it and then have my mental breakdowns, and I'm like, I don't need that. I'd rather just be like, oh, okay, well, fair enough, like that's you, but that's me, you know. Like,
I get you, your body, your rules, your life.
Yeah,
sort of
it's
thing.
my life. Yeah,
I get that. So I'm going to I'm going to play devil's advocate here, because there's people watching this and might not be comfortable with what you're saying. So if I went on your Instagram profile and I go to your link tree, one of the first things that comes up is at the top is OF.
Yeah.
What do you post on that? How does that work?
So when I started OnlyFans, it was literally just after lockdown. I was literally like, and I've said it to my partner for ages, I wanted to do it. And the one thing is, I just want to clear this out, it's not like naked ones. I don't think I could do that personally. Mm-hmm. And I think for the girls that do it, oh my god, fair play. I wish I was that confident to do it, but I'm just not that person. So I started as like just lingerie stuff and like teasy pictures, but I'm not fully naked in it. But I realised along the line, I thought, oh, you might have to just get naked to make money, you know, like there's so many subscribers that are going to subscribe to your OnlyFans account and think, okay, like she's not worth it, whatever. I only started doing it for extra money, to be honest. Like I literally just started doing it for extra money, and
You get a lot of people buying?
Well, new followers, like new guy, like if you're most guys, you know, like they bit nosy. I don't really like post about it, like I don't put my link on my Instagram or anything to be like, oh, go subscribe. Like I'm not really like that. It's just on my linked tree, and if people want to subscribe, then they can subscribe.
And so what is it, like pre-recorded videos on there?
No, it's just pictures. It's literally like professional pictures, like, you know, like bikini pictures that you would see on Instagram, like that, but just a bit different. Do you know what I mean? Like more professional pictures. Like I do like 2 or 3 shoots for my OnlyFans, so I can post that every day for like a year, and I just get it done in 3 times a year, and then I just post it every day. And then I think it's all about the captions. Right. If you put like a dirty caption, most likely those people will be like, oh, I want to see what, and then they actually subscribe, and they're like, oh, it's literally what she posts on Insta. It's basically the stuff that don't make it to the gram. Do you know what I mean? And so I do get a lot of like guys messaging me like, oh, I feel like I just got scammed. But I'm just like, well, I never said I was doing it naked. Do you know what I mean? Like, why do you just presume that? And the thing is, OnlyFans is actually trying to change their way of doing OnlyFans. So I saw this like video that OnlyFans is trying to do it for like, you know, cooking stuff. Like, let's say people cooking and people can just go subscribe. It's like a monthly thing. Do you know what I mean? And people get paid for it.
I know a UFC fighter who does
yeah,
it.
like even podcasts. You could easily put your podcast on there and people are like, oh, like, let me just see what's this about. And do you know what I mean? You can learn stuff.
We can do the outtakes.
Yeah, literally. No, you could. No, you seriously could. Like, if you actually go on their OnlyFans Instagram page, it's about football, cooking, and obviously, yeah, the main thing that they started off was that industry. Like,
how much do you make?
Well, not that much. Like I said, it's just more like extra money for me. I've got like $3,000 sitting in there at the moment, but I'm just gonna keep it there.
What frame of time?
Oh, that's like in the space of a year, so it's not that much. Do you know what I mean?
But it's a little side hustle.
Yeah, it's more like a side thing. Like, I personally like I said, I don't think I could ever get naked on it. Like, I'm not that confident in my body to do that.
Yeah. Look, my question here is, we're in a society where people are becoming more and more antisocial.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not really mingling and jingling like we used to in the bars and clubs and having a drink. People are chatting online. And there's actually a study out, especially in America, that most 18 to 34-year-olds, 51% of them have never actually physically been with a woman.
Yeah, I mean, I think about it all the time, but I've never been with a woman, unfortunately.
but there's things like OnlyFans that's keeping them sort of at home, and they can sort themselves out, but it's not leading to a good sort of society where they're satisfying themselves, but they're getting mental breakdowns when they're actually having to deal with real people. And then they get into mental health, and then they go and start lashing out on people and doing silly things like shooting people and stabbing people. And like, some people say that that's not a good, and you know, people setting up OnlyFans and them sort of industries are not helping that sort of generation. Now, people do have a choice. So what's your view on that sort of side?
I do think, like, how do I word it? It obviously, it does. There's always pros and cons about everything. Like, not just the OnlyFans industry, but like, we've got a friend and she's a mum of 4, and sometimes you just have to. Like, you can't, especially if everything's so expensive. Like, you kind of have to nowadays. And like, if a man just leaves you and you've got 4 kids, who's going to feed those kids? Like, you can't actually, like, yeah, okay, there's benefits and stuff like that, but it's not enough to pay and have a normal life. You'll be struggling every month and thinking, oh, I'm getting $1,000 for my work next month, I'll have to wait till the 25th. Do you know what I mean? I feel like sometimes you do just have to. And like, if you're confident, yeah, fair play, do it. If you're not, then you shouldn't ever make yourself do it. But I do feel like most people that do this sort of stuff, especially women, I do think mentally affects them. Like, it has to. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can walk down the street and someone's fully seen you naked. That's not a nice, like, feeling. Do you know what I mean? And like, it must affect you somehow. Do you know what I mean? Like,
do you know what you mean? But then another person could say that she's put herself in that position, and then other men will devalue a woman like that. They say, well, she has no value. Like, what is there for me? Like, I want my woman for my eyes only, and the whole world's seeing her, or there's things out there. How do you deal with that side?
Well, I don't know, because I don't do that, so I don't really know. But I'd say, I don't know. I feel like you can't just look at it, because there's couples that do it together.
Yes.
How about that? Then what? Like, you're both doing it, you can't say anything. Do you know what I mean? Like, you do have to just, like, I saw this like couple on TikTok, and they've got 2 kids together, and they don't post the kids at all, but they do stuff together, and you know, they're both posting about it, then they're both making money. Do you know what I mean? And their friends and family probably seen them just to like be nosy. Do you know what I mean? You never know.
Do you think it's a mindset? Is it how open-minded you are?
Yeah, I feel like you can't, when you do stuff like that, I do feel like you have to be open-minded, because if you're not, then like, how did you do it? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I do think it is good that, like, especially women, they're always dependent on men for money and stuff. And I guess the only way, well, not the only way, but there's a way of doing it yourself. Why not? Like, if you're single and you don't have any kids or family or anything like that, and you want to do it, I think that's fair play. But I do think I don't have a strong opinion, but I do have a bit of an opinion that, like, if you have kids, it's kind of like, they're going to find out one day.
Yes.
Their friends are going to find out. Their parents are going to find out. And then some parents might even question you, and they might not want your kid to be friends with
There'll
their
be parents
kid.
that disown you.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And I don't think, like, I could ever do it personally. But, yeah.
Can I ask what your background is?
I'm Sri Lankan, so that's why I'm kind of like... Even me, like, doing the bikini and lingerie pictures, that's still a big thing for them. Wow. Trust me. Like,
do your parents know? Or
my mum does.
Say? Okay.
My brother, I think he does.
Wow.
I mean, it's not something I want to talk about to my brother, but my mum does, and I think my brother did ask her about it, and my mum's like, "Oh yeah, I've seen it. It's just lingerie stuff." And then, like, my brother was like, "Does Dad know?" And she was like, "Yeah, no." I was like, "Yeah, let's keep it that way." Do you know what I mean? I do not want my dad to know. Wow. And I block him from seeing my stuff as well, because I don't really want him to know.
What about if one of his friends go,
I know that.
Check this woman out. She's Sri Lankan as well, and, like, you know, men talk, and then it's you.
Yeah, but then they kind of be weird because they're like 50-year-old men. Do you know what I mean?
50-year-old men do that.
No, I know, but I feel like Sri Lanka. I don't know. I don't. It's
you don't know what happens behind the curtains.
It is kind of weird, to be fair. I mean, I've had one of my mum's, like, big on Facebook. I don't know how. Don't ask. Probably about politics and stuff like that. And one of her, like, followers or whatever, they're, like, once stopped when I was walking to work, and it kind of scared me a bit, because they were like, "Oh, do you want a lift?" And I was like, "No, don't know you." And he was like, "Oh, I know your mum." And I was like, "Okay, cool, I still don't want to lift, I don't know you." Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I got really rude to him, because I'm like, "Why are you stopping in the middle of the bridge to, like, ask me if I want to lift off a random guy that I've never met in my life?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I follow you on Instagram." I'm like thinking, all I thought about, the first thing that came into my head is, oh, he's definitely subscribed to my OnlyFans. And that's the scary part, because yeah, okay, I'll do OnlyFans, but unless you subscribe to it, you don't know what sort of content I do, so they're already thinking dirty minded. Do you know what I mean? And that kind of cringes me out sometimes.
So are you saying that, you know, even being an OF model, it's a profession? You're acting to provide a service for maybe single men or men who want to. Do you know what it was? Yeah, dude,
one of the reasons I started OnlyFans is because when I was younger, right, I used to always get these men beeping. I think that's quite common, isn't it? Like, so you get men beeping, right? Everyone gets it. All girls get it, pretty much. Even guys get it. Do you know what I mean? But I always thought, oh, I'd love to mug them off. Do you know what I mean? I would love to do that. And that came into my head. And for years, I just thought, oh, whatever, like, they're beeping, but they scared the shit out of me as well. So I'm like, I don't like that feeling. Do you know what I mean? And, like, you know, when I said earlier, I got a few guys to message and say, oh, I feel like I got mugged right off. And I feel like I kind of like, it's weird. I kind of like mugging them off, because you're not getting anything out of me. Okay, you got a picture of them, lingerie, cool. Like, that's on my socials anyway, so why does it matter? I kind of like mugging them off back, because I'm like, why do you always think that I'm going to be selling that sort of stuff? Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't just presume that I'm doing that sort of stuff just because of the name of the...
Yeah,
you know,
I get you,
website.
But this comes on another topic now. Like, a guy takes a girl out now for dinner. Yeah, he's trying to impress her. She's looking nice, and she goes, "Yeah, you can take me out for a nice meal." Obviously, there's some sort of gain he wants out of that. He's like, and it's not just one thing, but he's like, "Yeah, I want to get with this girl. She looks beautiful. I want to make her home." And sometimes for women, it's a lot easier to say, well, I've got 5 guys waiting to take me out for dinner. Yeah. So he's taking you out now. To you, you might be saying he's paying for my meal. Unless you're a blogger. And
to be fair, I was going to say this. I hate girls that do that. I generally hate girls that expect a man to pay. Because I'm like, get your own fucking money. Like, you pay for it. You either say, let's go 50-50, or you pay for your part and he pays for his part. I don't understand this whole thing, oh, men have to pay for everything. Like, I've just never been that girl. Like, even, I mean, I've only been in like one serious relationship, and the other one, like, it was a situationship for years. And even then, I used to always pay. I used to always pay for him, me. And then at one point I was like, I'm actually paying more. Like, it's weird, because it's like, I don't mind paying, but like, at least offer. Do you know what I mean? Like, it'd be nice for a man to offer, but like, in my past, obviously, like I said, I felt like at one point I was paying a lot, and like, it kind of made me feel a bit like, oh, you're using me. Do you know what I mean? And that must be how men feel when
absolutely
they take a girl out on a date.
Especially if they're like, you know, they consistently want to be taking women out in terms of, yeah, I want this girl to be my chick right now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pay for her, try and impress her. I'm a man. I can be in control. I can take the lead. I can take the charge.
Yeah.
And she sort of, instead of going, no, let's halve this, because she goes, well, I don't really like you, so I don't want to take anything off your plate. They'll be like, no, he can pay. And then they won't answer his call. And then he's had to do that process 10 times. Now that 10 times, it might be £100 for this meal.
Yeah.
Over 10 weeks, he spent £1,000. But women don't think like that generally. They're going, no, I got my bit out of it. He's lucky he got to spend the evening with me.
Yeah.
And, you know, so that's the pressure men are facing out there, which is, the mental health with men is growing, like spiraling way out of control. So when all these stabbings and shootings and violence is happening, it's because men just they're having pressure from everywhere. Men should be
100%.
We're programmed to be large and in charge, like alpha, to protect and provide. And next minute you go home and your wife might be nagging at you, or your girlfriend, or you haven't done this. You go to work and then your boss is telling you, you ain't done this, and this. So where's that little outlet for men then?
No, yeah, that's so true, because like the first bit that you said, I was like, oh, that's me and my partner, because obviously we've got 2 kids, we do get on each other's nerves, but I do work a lot, and he's basically, it's not like he's the stay-at-home dad, but he's got more time than me, do you know what I mean? He works around his stuff, and he doesn't, he still works hard, don't get me wrong, because God, staying with those kids all day can't be fucking easy, do you know what I mean? But he works hard, and he does, like, you know, get the house ready, and I'm home, and like, he's like, oh, can you do this? And I'm like, oh, I just want a minute to myself. And I was like, well, I've been doing it all day. And then we get on each other's nerves, and it's sometimes unfair, because when I'm at work, it's not as like, because my job is not that stressful, and it can get stressful, but it's not that stressful. It's actually quite a calm job. And obviously I do all this social media stuff, and he always sees it as, oh, you have fun while I'm at home, like, you know, doing all this. And I'm like, okay, yeah, to be fair, I get you. And now we got to the point now that we give each other time. Like, I'll be like, oh, you can go out with your friends, or like, you can go out with your, like, you know, obviously I go out a lot more because I have to put myself out there a bit more with the social media stuff and meeting people and getting myself to a point where I can be like, okay, do you know what, I don't need to go out as much now. Do you know what I mean? But
is that still attractive for you?
What?
A guy at home, look after the kids. Yes, he's giving you flexibility, but then you're coming home and he's like, not moaning, but he's got a few issues where this has happened. Like, isn't that sort of a role reversal of what happens? Like, what a man is in control, he doesn't really moan and nag a lot, but he's got a different sort of situation here.
God, he moans. I tell you, he moans. He's always moaning. But I don't know, I feel like we just really work together as a team. Like, obviously he met me before I started all this social media stuff, so like, I was just like him, do you know what I mean? And I think we just got to a point that he saw how well I was doing, that he lets me follow my dreams. And he's into like crypto and Binance and stuff like that. So he's really into that. Right. And he watches YouTube videos all day, every day. And it's kind of draining sometimes. So his work is that, do you know what I mean? He's focused on that, and he's really good at it. But also I've given a lot, I support him in the way of like, I've given money to like put into that, like invest the money into that. So I feel like I'm helping him a lot more in that sense financially.
Wow.
But he does help me financially. I mean, I don't drive, so I'm the passenger princess. So he does like take me to a lot of places and picks me up and makes sure I'm safe. And he's always checking up on me, like, oh, what time are you getting home? Like, are you okay getting home? And, you know, he's so good to me. And like, when I first met him, I'd say he was the alpha, I'd say. Do you know what I mean? But I feel like now we're both in that position where we're both good to each other. We both help each other out, whether it's financially or mentally. Like, he helps me a lot mentally. Like, he has to deal with a lot with me when it comes to it, because I'm quite a broken person. I've gone through a lot for me to be the person I am today, but I still struggle on the daily, where I stress him out a lot. Like, I have like mental breakdowns sometimes to the point that he has to like literally leave me to it until I calm down. Like, one thing can annoy me and I'm like I will kick off. Like, the whole house will hear it. Me and my mum are so bad at it, and she's Asian as well. She's Sri Lankan. They've got a voice. Like, that woman won't shut up. And me and her, when we argue, everyone's out the house. They're like, just leave us to it, because we're really bad for it. At the moment, we're living back at my mum's, so it's kind of like it gets too much. Like, me and my mum never got on growing up. Like,
how come you're back at home?
So savings. Everything's just so expensive, especially when you've got 2 kids. You got to think about making them happy, go on days out, food, everything. Do you know what I mean? You can't just like think, oh, it's just the rent, it's fine. You know, you have to think of everything else on top.
I think that's quite a good thing, to be honest. I mean, all the old school people always used to live in joint families, and even the Tate brothers, they say, you know, we live together, our women live with us, you know, and we've learned of other Asian people where they have 5 supercars, and like, how do you do that?
No, that's so true, because that's what me and my mum would say. We're like, why is Asian people more successful nowadays? And she's like, because like they're just getting to a good business and then they all live together. Do you know what I mean? You just, even let's say you get a 5-bedroom house, why wouldn't you want to live with your parents? Do you know what I mean? Like, you have that. And the thing is, my mum helps, well, my mum and dad, they both help us so much. Like, let's say I have to go to a doctor's and it takes about half an hour. I can be like, oh, are you guys in? Like, can I just leave the kids with you? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. Like, we're here until this time, so make sure you're back at this time. So I'm like, okay, sweet. At least now I don't have to sort out childcare. Do you know what I mean? And it like, we help, like, my mum and dad help me so much. Like, I wouldn't be able to do all this. Like, it's not just my partner that has kids. He's got stuff to do. Like, he's got his mum that is ill at the moment, and he's been looking after her for years. So he always has to go in and out the house all the time to help his mum. So when he has other things to do, your parents help out so much. And I feel like because they're Asian as well, they like having them. It's really weird. I feel like when I see like my friends, like, I'm not saying like this is a thing, but some of my friends that have kids, they don't get as much like freedom or help as much as my parents would like help me. And I count myself so like, as much as I moan about them and like the way they are parenting and stuff, they do help out a lot. It's just that sometimes the way they would see a child, or like the way they would have their own rules, I don't agree with that, because me and them always fell out over that stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, for example, like, a girl's not allowed to wear like shorts and a top. I'm like, we're on the other side of the world. You kind of have to get used to this. I'm not just gonna dress like you. Like, that's just not my style. I don't want to dress like that. And don't get me wrong, if we're going to somewhere like Sri Lankan and they're having a wedding or something like that, then of course I'm gonna dress like that. That's just like,
Basata sari.
Yeah, like, that's just like your culture, and I'm gonna respect that. I still respect you, and I respect the culture, and it's actually a nice culture. Do you know what I mean? But that doesn't mean I want to wear that every day. Do you know what I mean? And I actually enjoy it when I do dress like that, because I'm like, oh, I never see myself looking like this. It's actually nice. Do you know what I mean? But they always wanted me to be like that girl at home, straight away after school, come home, sit at home, study. You have to go to university to make it. And I'm like, no. And it's all about doctors. You have to become a doctor or something like high up, or like a scene high up, because even doctors nowadays don't get paid that much, do they, sometimes? So like, they just expect you to be this person that you don't want to be. Instead of just letting you do what you want to do, they expect you to do that.
What do you expect of your children?
Whatever they want to do, of course. Like, there's certain things I wouldn't want them to do, but if they're gonna do it, like, I want to know about it. Do you know what I mean?
Does parenthood change you? So there's a lot of things that your parents might have done and said with you growing up, but now you have children yourself. Does the penny drop and go, ooh, I know how it feels on the other side now?
Yeah, no, there are like little things, like, you know, obviously I'm not in that stage just yet because they're not teenagers or anything. They are 5 and 3 at the moment, but there's certain things that they do, and I'm like, oh, you little, you know. And then I'm like, and then my mum's like, yeah, that's why I used to be like that with you. I'm like, yeah. She's like, this is your karma. And I'm like, oh, I really hate you right now. But I'm like, yeah, maybe it is. And I just have to shut her down because I'm like, do you know what? I'm not going to agree with you, but I get what you're saying. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, no, it's not a nice feeling. Especially when they get like rude to you. I'm like, I'd like, because my parents, if I spoke to them like that, slap, that's it, boom, done, you're done. But I've always said to myself, I'm never going to do that.
Do you think hitting should be allowed?
No, I don't, because I struggled with it for a long time. Like, my dad was a bit of an alcoholic when I was younger, like, so all I have is like little blurs of like him being very violent. But then again, now I look back, I'm like, you know what, my mum kind of, she asks for it sometimes. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I say that to her, I don't care, I've said it to both of them. I'm like, you both are toxic in different ways. Like, my mum will wind you up to the point where you do want to just, you know, sometimes.
So did you ever see your dad hit your mum?
Yeah, it's been brutal. So, like, those ones obviously are not funny, but like, yeah, it was quite traumatic because I used to take my brother into the toilet and lock ourselves in the toilet because I didn't want him to see it. And he actually doesn't remember much of it because he was younger. Like, I was a bit older. I was like 4.5 years older than him, so I remember a lot more. So yeah, I used to always have to take him like to the toilet and just hide him in there.
So do you think a man should be allowed to hit a woman?
No, but it's so normal in that country. That's why my dad was the way he was as well, because it's normal in that. Like, I remember I went to Sri Lanka once and I was like 14, so I remember it. And we went to one of my friend, like my mum's friends, like school friends, like house, and my dad was there and everything. And I remember this guy, like, I don't know, I think she just answered back. It wasn't even that bad. I don't really remember what the whole scenario was, but he literally got like a stick, like a massive stick, like hard stick, and just like launched it at her and beat her up with it. And she was crying, and I'm like, and my mum was like telling him not to, and she was like trying to pull the guy, and then my dad grabs her and is like, don't get involved. And I'm like, what? And then obviously my dad saw how bad it got as well, and he was like, no, come on, stop now, like, seriously. And then my dad going was like, don't do that, like, sort of thing. And I was thinking to myself, like, I thought my parents were bad, like, this is something else, like, this is not okay. Like, my dad's, like, when I say it's bad, it's not as bad as like I've seen, do you know what I mean? Like, it'll be like with a belt or something, do you know what I mean? Like, oh, I mean, that sounds like so kinky, didn't it? But it would be like stuff like, oh, he'll throw stuff like a chair, and sometimes he'd like grab her by the hair and stuff like that. Okay, that was bad. Whoa. But it's not as bad as what I saw that day. That's when I was like, this is very normal in this country, and it shouldn't be normal, but it is normal. And I was just like so thrown back by it, because I thought, oh, all these years I thought my parents were just like wrong for doing this, but actually it's normal here. So I kind of got to the point where I was like, okay, well, maybe it's just how they are, and it shouldn't be like that, but it is how they are. And
so you say you can nag and shout and scream and stuff like
that,
but
I do think all that trauma is because of them. Like, I'm so like mentally not okay, and the thing is, I'm not saying I'm not okay now, because I do think I have gotten a lot better, especially when I got into a healthy relationship as well. Like, when I was in my toxic one, I was crazy. Like, I was just like how probably my mum was. Like, I would wind everyone up to the point where I'd want to fight. Like, I've got arrested like twice because of things like that. Yeah, once
arrested
with my mum.
For what?
No, this was me and my mum. We had an argument, and then it got a bit physical, both of us. And then she called the police on me. I was like, 15-year-old me, I'm like, cheers, mum, you know? She called the police on me, and they obviously like arrested me. And I was like, and then they were asking me questions, and I was like, oh, well, she hit me first. And then they arrested her as well. And I was like, yes, like, finally.
You got your mum arrested?
No, but she got me arrested, so why shouldn't I? Do you know what I mean? And she started it anyway. And then I remember my dad came and picked us up from the, I mean, it's funny looking back now because we both laugh about it now, but my dad came and picked us up from the police station because basically he got a phone call off me and then he got a phone call off my mum, and he was like, oh, I might as well pick you both up. And I remember the most awkward journey back home because my mum didn't say anything, I didn't say anything, and my dad and my brother were just creasing, like they were like, what is wrong with you two? Wow. I was like, she called the police, this wouldn't even be a situation if she didn't call the police. And yeah, they both agreed she shouldn't have called the police. Like, why are you calling the police on your own daughter? Do you know what I mean? Like, I was a teenager, and plus you done it first, so you expect it back. And this is another thing that annoys me. I don't know if it's like every Asian like families, but she's always like, you should never hit your mum. I'm like, I don't just go out of my way and be like, oh, I'm gonna decide to hit you today. Do you know what I mean? I'm not gonna do that. But if you hit me, expect something back. Like, it was never as bad as she would do it. Do you know what I mean? Wow. So I'm like, I took so much shit off you for years, and not once did I defend myself. But now I'm getting a bit older, I'm gonna defend myself. You can't just rip my hair off and think you can get away with it. Like, expect it back. Do you know what I mean? And that's why I think, you know, when they say, oh, if someone hits you, it's self-defense. It should be, because why should you be allowed to hit me and I'm not allowed to hit you back, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's how I just started saw it. Just because you're my mum doesn't mean you can just get away with it.
There's a guy who came here 2 episodes ago. His name was Ed Lofts.
Oh, okay.
He's growing very quickly, rapidly. He's a friend of MVP, Michael Page, who's the UFC fighter, 7 times kickboxing champion. And he spoke a lot about CPTSD. Yeah, so it's post-traumatic trauma of small incidents. Now, PTSD sort of is when you've gone to war and you've heard a loud bomb.
Yeah.
And the next minute I'm sitting here and I heard somebody slamming the door. I jump up without even realising. Yeah. But C, the complex one, is with everything that you're speaking about now. These little incidents.
Yeah, no, there are things, because I remember, I think it was when my partner I first got with my partner, and I think we got into like a little bit of a, not argument, but just a little bicker, and he went to give me, like, because we were in the middle of doing something, and he went to give me that, and I just like kind of went back, and then he was like, what did you think I was going to do? I was like, oh, and I didn't tell him at the time, but I told him like years later. I was like, oh, I just thought he was going to hit me, and he was just like, why would I hit you? And I was like, because it's pretty normal in this family. Do you know what I mean? That's what I was thinking. And yeah, that like, even now, like with people, like, you know, if I get into an argument, or even like out of nowhere, like, just, it could be just a normal disagreement, I just think if someone's like reaching their hand towards me, I just think, oh, like, I kind of like flinch a little bit. It's weird. But now that you said it, it is because of that. And like, me and my partner was like, I think it's like a trauma thing, like where you grew up having that your basically whole life. I think now you think that's going to happen to you. And
have you ever tried to get sort of any help, like any therapy? Like?
Yeah, so I had a really bad like start of the year, and the only thing that could help was probably the counselling. And I used to always get offered when I was younger, when I was in school, for free and stuff like that, because after my accident, obviously it's a big thing to go through, and they just wanted me to get help, but I never took it seriously. I was like, oh, I'm fine, I'm good, like, it's fine, like, but it's only in my adult life that now it's hitting me, all this, like, my accident and the story behind it, and how my parents were towards me, and people that bullied me in school, and, you know, falling out with friends, toxic friends, stuff like that, like, you know, boys, do you know what I mean, that I've never had like loads of boys, but I had this one guy that really just taught me enough to be like, wow, I really hate men. Do you know what I mean? And I went through a stage where I really did hate like every single male, like, and everything they would say, it would be like, okay, like, I know exactly where this is going. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, no, it got to the point where I was like, do you know what, I actually just need counselling. I can't just, because I used to be that friend that I always used to ring up, like my bestest mate, for example. Like, I used to always ring her up and give her all my like problems, and it's like, your friends are supposed to listen to you, but there's so much they can say, and if you're doing the opposite of what they're saying, they're going to get bored of it after a while. Especially like my best mate, like, I'm still friends with her now, like, she's known me for 10 years, she's seen me every single stage in my life, and she's like, you need help. Like, it's not that like it's a bad thing, it's not a bad thing to get help. It's like, you need to let out these emotions so they can give you, because when you tell me your own emotions, it upsets me. Like, I don't like seeing you like that. So then it takes it onto my life, and that can also be quite draining. And like at the time I was like, oh, like what bitch, do you know what I mean? Like, why is she like being like that, like making it out like I'm so toxic? And it's like, actually no, after I got cancer I realized, actually no, like she's right. I needed help. I needed to get that help from someone, because it's not fair that I like give her my problems as well, because it's now affecting her life. Now we're both like, do you know what I mean, going through it, and it's not nice. So for a bit we distanced ourselves, and after a bit she was like, look, it's not that I meant it in a bad way, I just wanted you to get some help. Like, I still want to hear what you got to say. Like, if you've had a bad day, I want you to come and tell me and just let it out, because sometimes that's all you need. But it just got to the point where I was relying on her, on my happiness.
It can get quite toxic.
Yeah.
when you're going, he's done this now, he's done that now, why is he doing that again? And the other person on the phone is like, just remove yourself from the situation. But you won't but you probably wouldn't listen to that advice, and keep going around this revolving circle.
That's what she was saying. And she was like, and it's because I care about you. Like, we have that love connection. Obviously, like, sounds like a relationship, but you do with your friends, you do like care about them, do you know what I mean? And where a counsellor, they get paid, they know exactly what the right thing to say is, and they don't take on your own emotions. Do you know what I mean? Because you're literally just a client to them. They're not attached to you. They don't know you like that, if that makes sense.
It's actually a job for them, and they get
paid, that's what I mean. That it's generally just a job. So for them, they don't see it like that. Where with the friend or family member, they're going to take on those emotions.
They say that therapists actually have a therapist.
Yeah, they must do.
Well.
I mean, I don't know how I'd take everyone's problems and like think, oh, my life is, let's just carry on as normal. But yeah, they must do. Yeah.
Well, Dinusha, I want to go more. I know we mentioned it at the start. I want to go a little bit more deeper into your journey.
Yeah.
So I want to ask a little bit about your childhood, how you were growing up, and what led to that incident, what happened that day where you were caught on some train tracks. So tell me about what was 10-year-old Dinusha like.
So 10-year-old me, well, obviously, like I said, I had a really abusive families, like not just my dad but my mum. I'd say they're both really bad, to be honest, and they're really good now, like, but they should not have been together. They should not have even like stayed together, but it's what it is, isn't it? It's just how they were brought up, and that's fine. But I think they realised after, I mean, we moved from Italy, they lived there for like 25 years.
How old was you?
I think they moved there in the 90s or maybe 80s, like maybe like beginning of 90s, I'd say. And obviously I wasn't born then, so they just had a life there, and then they had me, and then they had my brother, and then I think when I was like 11 they got too toxic, bad, like my dad went through a really bad alcohol problem, and my dad even said, he was like, I just want to change, like I don't want to be like this in front of the kids. Like my mum, we used to have a flat, and my mum used to always have used to have to lock the door so my dad wouldn't come in drunk and start being violent and stuff like that. So
to his room door or the flat door?
No, the flat door. And
so where would he go?
No, and he used to sleep on the stairs.
Oh wow. And
like he wouldn't come in until the next day, and he used to sometimes bang the door. And obviously there's like other flats, but they were kind of used to it because they were just knew that's just my dad. And they've also been like good neighbours because they've known them for years, so they were like, oh whatever, like it's what it is. But they also had their own kids, and at one point it did get a bit annoying. So I think the friendship group he was in wasn't good enough, obviously, and he just, like, not that he needed to get rid of them, but he needed to move on, do you know what I mean? And it was never going to happen if they were all hanging around together. And he was like, oh, like, his brother lives in the UK, so he was like, oh, like, let's just move to the UK, and it's a good country, do you know what I mean? And let's just start over. So my dad came initially, he stayed here for a couple of months until he found a place and sorted himself out for us to come there and stay as well. And I remember my mum said, oh, we're only going for like 6 months and then we'll be back. And I was like, oh cool, like living my whole life ahead. I didn't know that at the time, but it was hard because I literally, when I came here, I just started secondary school, and I was like halfway through secondary school. Well, not halfway because I was 11, but halfway through year 7. So I was like, oh, like I have to make new friends and everything. I don't even speak English. Like I didn't speak any English when I first came here.
Wow.
So that was hard. But luckily we had like Italian teacher, so she was really helpful and helped me out a lot.
How is life different in Italy and England?
I mean,
in
there's a
that
lot
whole
of
thing?
differences. Like, for example, I think the law there is not that great. I'd say, like, here, if you call the police, they take it serious. If you call the police, they'll just laugh at you. Do you know what I mean? Especially where I lived. Like, we're in Rome. It's central.
Wow.
They're not going to take everything serious. Like, if you say, oh, my husband just hurt me, they're not going to take that
They
serious.
laugh.
No, they won't laugh. But, like, they'll come there and they'll be like, oh, well, so everything seems fine. They won't even come back and check. Like, because, like, here, if you call them, they'll come and check and everything's fine. Okay, they either arrest him or not or whatever. But then they'll still check up on you like a couple of weeks later or a couple of days later. I'm like, oh, how's everything going? Like, they're nothing. Like, you don't really... most of the time, even if they got called, they wouldn't even come there. Like, that's how the system was there. But yeah, that's like one of the differences. But the lifestyle, I did like it because it's just more open. There's a lot more to do. Food's better, personally, and just stuff like that is a lot better. But I think life-wise, to actually wanting to start a life, I'd say here is a lot better. Like, I feel like in Italy, you kind of have to be rich already to be like making it in life. Do you know what I mean? Because there's not that many jobs going.
I heard they said that, you know, you almost have to wait for somebody to die in the bank to go and get that job of him, sort of thing. Like, if somebody
it's
gets
really, really hard. Like, that's why I think they got to that point as well. I mean, my dad was actually quite successful when we were in Italy because he was a chef and he was working for a pizza shop. Like, he was working for a pizza shop right next to the Vatican.
Wow.
So he was on goodish money. And he had a lot of free time, so he had me and my brother. Like, he again was the one that was like looking after the kids more than my mum. Like, my mum, she basically used to always what do you call them? I think it's like, is it house sitting, babysitting, and everything put together. She was like the housekeeper, I guess, of like,
or something.
Yeah, of like someone that was like really famous. I forgot their name, but yeah, she used to be a housekeeper for that sort of stuff and
look after their kids.
Yeah,
and do the cooking,
like do all the so she was always pretty much away until like 6 o'clock, and then they would swap, and then my dad would go to work, and then he wouldn't come back until 2 o'clock in the morning. And I think that's probably why he started drinking alcohol and stuff as well, because it was a stressful job. But yeah, and then we moved here and everything was fine at first, to be fair, but because I didn't speak any English, I felt like I was a bit of a target in that school. Like, where I'm living now, and I still am living, well, where I lived then and now, like, I felt like a bit of a target because I was like the third, like, dark-skinned girl in the school. Like, maybe not even, like, second maybe. Like, there was only 2 of us that had, like, dark skin. So I felt like it was a bit of a target. Like, now looking back, at the time I never thought of it because, you know, when you're 15, you don't actually think about how you're feeling mentally. You just kind of brush it off because you like, oh, I don't want that person to think I'm uncool because I'm like, they might think I'm attention seeking, stuff like that. So I never really spoke about how I felt. But yeah, I felt like a bit of a target, and then I slowly started getting bullied, and people would call me like, "Oh, you packy," or you why are you even in this country and stuff like that. And I'd be like, oh my god.
Which area did you grow up in? Which area did you grow up in?
In Surrey.
In Surrey, okay.
So it's quite posh sort of area.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot more people now that are more my colour, like around where I live, but it's still not as popular as you would if you came to London or something. Do you know what I mean? It was really hard. So I felt like I got a bit of a target, and then like, I think there was one time this boy just threw water on me, and I was just like, why did I just get that? And the thing is, in Italy, I didn't really get bullied. I never got bullied. Like, I never ever experienced anyone picking on me or being horrible to me, like, ever. So I was just like, oh, is this what they do here? And like, even when I speak to my cousin that still lives in Italy, I'm like, oh, does bullying ever happen here? She's like, not really. I'm like, yeah, like, everyone seems so nice. I'm
Only
like,
in Milan.
Yeah, like, maybe, no, it just depends. But she was somewhere that was like kind of in the middle of nowhere, so maybe that's why. But like, bullying happens everywhere. Do you know what I mean? Like, but she was saying, like, from what I hear from you, it sounds like England, there's a lot of bullies. And I'm like, yeah, like, to be fair, like, I know a lot of people that I'm friends with that have got bullied. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it is
still here is felt more than it's said.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. And no one physically says you're a packy or you're that colour. They slightly talk to you different.
Yeah.
And you can't really pinpoint it. So if you even make it into an issue, they're like, how am I treating you different?
Yeah.
You're breaking the rules, or you're doing this.
Yeah.
Like, I feel that sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
Like when I went to Milan, I've been to like 54 countries, yeah.
Oh, wow.
But I've been to Roma, Brescia,
Yeah.
you know, a few different, Venezia,
Yeah.
all of these places. But when I went to Milan, I went to queue up for the Duomo, sort of, you know, the big sort of cathedral. And as I went there, I was the first one in the queue, and there's a guy there with the gun and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then as soon as they opened the door, because the day before they wouldn't let us in, we was 1 minute over, and it's like, no, rules are rules, move now, sort of thing. And it's like, okay, well, I'm a tourist, it's nice way. This could have been my last day, and I've just tried to make this. But anyway, that's fine. I was late. The next morning, I was in front of the queue. They were like, moved me out the way and took the white person in, and I just was, hang on, did I actually miss something
Really?
here? Because we was first in the queue. We've got the special tickets with the lifts that goes up to top, and it was like that. And I never felt so
like,
second
yeah.
class. And I even went to the train station, and I was like, can we have tickets for so and so? And they've told what we have to do. And I said, I'll be back in a second. I'll go on the ticket machines, and I've realized it's about €5 cheaper. So I was about to do it. I went, let me just make sure with the guy. This is a public servant job. And so I went over to the counter, and I go, the machine over there says this. And he goes, well, go to the machine then. It was like, put this amount in the machine and this much cash. And I was like, it sounds a bit dodgy.
Yeah.
You know?
One thing I will say, Italians can be really rude. Like, I've noticed that.
Especially in Milan.
Now that I've moved away from that country, now I can see, like, because like here you can go for a walk somewhere and be like, hi, you're right, how are you, like, how's your day? And like, it's always with old people mostly, and they'd give it back and be like, oh yeah, good, how's your morning? And that's it. If you do it in Italy, they kind of look at you like, why is she talking to me? I'm like, and I never realised that until I moved here, that how different things can be. But yeah, no, I know what you mean, because I still got an Italian passport, and I went to get it, like, I think renewed or something, and I went there like last year, and I was asking bare questions, knowing the fact that they probably don't even know that I speak Italian or anything, and they said something in English, and they're like, do you speak Italian? And I was like, yeah. And then he said in Italian, oh, she doesn't speak English, why is she here? No, she doesn't speak Italian, why is she here? And then I answered back in Italian. I was like, oh, I actually understood that. And he was really shocked. I was like, don't think you're allowed to say that, are you? You're at work? And like, I just thought I'd give it back. I'm like, you just literally mugged me right in front of me. Like, literally heard you say it.
Wow.
And they like started laughing as well after they said it. I was literally thinking, you know, that's like, because there is a lot of, like, in Italy there's a lot of like different culture people everywhere. Like, I think there is everywhere, but there is a big thing in Italy that there's a lot of, like, you know, for example, Sri Lankans, Indians, and there's a lot of people that go to Italy because it's like quite an easy place to like start a life. Do you know what I mean? Especially if you're coming from a background like my parents, they were poor and they just wanted to start a new life, and they came to Italy. And the reason why they came to Italy is because my mum's auntie was in Italy, so she's like, oh, let's go to Italy, and they started a life, and then they realised actually they don't even want to stay here. They decided to come here, obviously. But I just, like, that day I just thought, like, I felt a bit, I don't know, they just obviously looked at me and they thought, she's not Italian, she can't speak Italian, like, do you know what I mean? It was kind of like rude and just, I don't know if it was racist. I don't like pulling the racist card out, but it kind of felt like that. Do you know what I mean?
So bringing it back to, you're in school now, people throwing water at you, the bullying started. What effect did that have on you?
So obviously, they used to like call me names, like I said, throw water. They got to a point that they started spitting at me, like disgusting, honestly.
Wow.
And then they'll like try pull like my blazer or pull my skirt down and stuff like that. I was like, whoa, what's going on? Like, why am I getting all this? And there was this one girl that used to like help me, and I'll never forget her because she kind of turned nasty after. But she basically was the girl that was supposed to like help me around. Like, she was like asked by the teachers or whoever like to like show me around and make her feel welcome and like, you know, be with her for a bit. And I didn't speak any English or anything, but she used to like bitch about me behind my back, and I used to be like, oh, like, you know, it's fine. Like, I didn't know for years that she was like that. And then I started understanding English, and I was in the toilet, because I used to always go to a toilet and eat my lunch and stuff in there toilet. Because I was that scared that I didn't want to see anyone. Like, I'd rather just go to class, go back and go to a toilet, whatever. And that's where my little hanging out bit was. And she said something, and I understood the whole thing, and they all went quiet and started looking in something, and I came out and I pretended like that I didn't hear anything. I was like, oh, you're right, like you. And she was just like, yeah. And her friends just like looking at her like, oh shit, like we all just coated her off. And she was like, oh, do you want to come sit with us? I was like, no, it's okay, like I'm good, like. And that's the day that I fully fucked them off. I was like, you know what, can't be arsed with you, like I just generally can't. And that's when I felt like the whole friendship thing, I started being wary about friends as well, because there I had friends from like since I was like 4 years old, do you know what I mean? So I was like, are these what friends are supposed to be like? Because they're not in where I came from, they're not. And then that obviously was one of the things, and I was on my own for a good year, like no friends whatsoever. And then I started hanging around with like you know, you always have like the neakier kids and stuff like that, and they were really nice to me, and even when I see them now, I'm like, oh, you're right, how you been, like, you know. But they weren't like, I didn't connect them in that sense, do you know what I mean? So I kind of like, yeah, we were friends, but I also didn't connect as much as I would with like if I had my own, like, not that I didn't choose them to be my friends, but it kind of just happened because I was like one of the good kids, and like I was really good in school, and like I kind of got into that, but I didn't really have much of a connection with them in that sense, like what we like doing outside of work and stuff like that. So it kind of drifted away. It wasn't like nothing bad or anything, but I just drifted away. And then also I was still getting bullied by like older people, like older years and stuff like that. That I find myself that I've started being someone else that wasn't the sneaky girl that liked doing all the work and stuff like that, getting A for or A whatever, like for everything. And I started giving it back a little bit, like I started getting a bit rowdy back. And the thing is, because I grew up with rowdy parents, I had that in me. I just never showed it to everyone else, because that's just what I'm like at home, not what I'm like outside of work, outside of home. And and then I started giving it back, and then they then carried on even worse. Like, they were coming for me, like they'd chase me down the road after school, like they'd literally chucked crisps, everything you can think of. Like, I've had it all, like literally. And then like I think when I was like 13, I met like my friends that I'm still friends with now. They're all like my bestest friends. I've got 5 of them that I grew up in school with, no, 6 of them actually, but I've got 6 of them, and I grew up in school, and they've been through so much with me. And like, even when I was getting bullied back then, they wished they'd done a lot more, but because they were also kids, it was hard for them, because then they didn't want to start getting picked on. And I always said to them, do not get involved. I'm like, it's fine, like I can handle myself, like. And they're like, sometimes they'll be like, oh yeah, but it's hard to watch it. And I'm like, yeah, but it's fine, like I don't want you then to start getting bullied because of me. Like, then we're all getting bullied, we don't need that, do you know what I mean? I was like, as long as like you're not being a bitch behind my back, then it's fine, do you know what I mean? Like, don't get involved. And I've always been that girl that's like, don't ever get involved, do you know what I mean? I know how to defend myself, do you know what I mean? And then when I was like 14, this one guy that was at the park, and he was a lot older, and he saw this other boy that I think it's like his brother's friend or something like that. His brother's friend saw him like chucking like nuggets, you know, like fish nuggets. They're alive as well, like it's horrible. And he chucked it all over me, and this guy saw it from the distance, and like and then he realized, he was like, oh, like, what are you doing? And then he was like, oh, you're right, whatever his name was, I'm not going to say his name, but he said, yeah, you're right. And then he was like, no, I'm not okay. What did you just do to that girl? And he was like, oh, it was just a bit of a joke. He was like, that's not a joke, you just threw nuggets at her. And he literally picked him up, and it's because he was his friend's little brother, do you know what I mean? He picked him up and like hanged him by the river, and was like, is that a joke then? Is that a joke? And then he was like, no, I was just joking. And he was like, and then he was like, was he joking? And I was like, no. And then he was like, why do you do that? And he put him back, and he was like, don't do that again, mate. Like, I swear to God. He was like, you're lucky I'm not going to your mum and telling her this. And then he was like, oh, please don't tell my mum. And he was like, no, you need to stop. Like, why did you just do that? He was like, oh, she doesn't mean nothing. And he got annoyed again. He was like, why are you talking about her like that? She's a woman. Like, she's not a woman. She's a girl. Like, don't speak to her like that. And that was probably one of the bad experiences that I've had, bullying as well. Like, nuggets all over me. Like, it's not a nice feeling. Like, I remember I walked home crying. And this guy chased after me and he was like, you okay? And I was like, yeah. It's like, let me just help you get it out. And I'm like, oh, it's fine, don't worry. And then I just looked up and I was just like crying. And he was like, oh, come here. And then I just like hugged him and he was like really nice about it. And that day, people kind of slowed it down after. But then I think after a bit they started it again anyway. Like, they carried on being bullies. And obviously this guy, I don't know him, do you know what I mean? He can't help me every time, do you know what I mean? He tried every time. If he did see it, he would say something, because he used to walk his dog there all the time. And that was probably one of the worst. No, actually no, there's been other situations that I've been in that I'm like, oh my God. Like, there was this one time I was in school and there was like 6 or 7 boys all spitting at me, and I was in a corner like, why is this happening? Like, I took it while I didn't say anything. Now I'm standing up for myself. I'm still getting like shit for it.
Didn't you tell the teachers?
Oh yeah, honestly, that school, it was awful. I'm sorry, I didn't get any sort of help from them at all. I felt like I was getting punished for the things that they were doing to me anyway, but they wouldn't get in trouble. But because they saw me doing it and they saw a changing behaviour, they thought, oh, she must be like, do you know what I mean? I just felt like I was getting in trouble for things that they wouldn't be getting in trouble. And that's another thing. I'm not saying they were racist or anything, the teachers, but I'm saying that I felt like picked on from both sides, whether it's like school kids or the teachers. Nothing was getting done, so something had to be done by me, and that was me trying to defend myself. By this defending myself was making things worse. So it just got to a point I just started not caring about anyone. I started getting rude to the teachers, and I started getting rude like to everyone that was around me.
Do you think your parents could have done more?
I feel like, it sounds really bad, but like, I feel like, I don't know if it's everywhere in Asia, but Asian people don't really have this thing called mental health. I think they just get on with it and that's it, and they just see it as that. And like, they don't, like my mum, she took a lot, but she never really spoke about it. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, how did you deal with that? Do you know what I mean? But like, now she's a bit older. Now she's like, oh, like we did go through a lot. Because now I'm more open about myself. That she's like, actually, yeah, you should be able to talk about it. But that's just not what happens in Sri Lanka. And I was just like, yeah, that's quite sad. Do you know that? And she was like, yeah, I know it is. Because most women just keep their mouth shut and does whatever the husband says. But she was like, not me though. And I'm like, yeah, clearly not you. That's why like you two don't get on.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You're going back in time now as yourself.
Yeah.
And you go to that park where that guy was chucking nuggets at you. And you're walking past and you see this young girl, you know, she's going through whatever she's going through. She's sitting down on that bench, and you walk past her, and then you stop and you look at that young 14, 15-year-old girl.
I'm literally imagining it right now, but yeah. Well,
and
not imagining it.
You look at her and you remember what it was like.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm literally picturing it right now.
You can smell the same smells. You can see them autumn leaves falling down. You can see the people. You can hear the noises around you. And you look at this girl, and this girl looks back at you. She looks eye to eye. And what do you tell that child?
Do you know what? It's, in a way, I'm like, if that was like, obviously that would never happen, but if I was gonna, I'd be really proud of myself, because I've gone through a lot and I still carried myself quite well. Especially in my adult life, I feel like I carried myself quite well. Back then, there are a few things that I wish I could change, because when I started getting bullied, I started giving it back, and then I'll be nasty back, and I'm like, why am I being nasty back? There's just no point. But that's just how I started being, because as a child, when you get picked on, you're sometimes going to pick on people that you shouldn't have picked on. Do you know what I mean? Like, why did I do that? Like, I wish I could go back and think, oh, like, I didn't feel nice about it, so why did I do it to someone else? I know they'd done it to me, but that doesn't mean you should be horrible back. Do you know what I mean? You should just actually come out with a solution and just done something about it.
Was there any way that you could vent out anything that you were sort of good at, or somewhere where you felt you had a bit more attention? So at home there was a little bit of, you know, fighting going on and dramas. At school there was bullying. Where was your outlet? Where did you feel like you could be you, or people liked you?
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't have that many friends when I was at that age, but I met a guy and he was like my safe place. It sounds really like weird, but he was like my go-to, do you know what I mean, where I can just be myself and I can just let everything out and he wouldn't judge me, and that was nice. I think if I didn't meet him, I probably would have done a lot worse. Not worse actually, because he was quite toxic as well in the end, but like in a way it was like my safe space at that point in my life. I felt like he got me a bit more confident in myself. Like he was the first guy that gave me like proper attention, so I felt like that's when my confidence came out a bit more. So yeah, I felt like every time something bad would happen, especially with my parents, I'd just go to him and just like would just talk about it like all night or whatever, like for a couple of hours while I was allowed out. And I just let it out and it was just nice. But I didn't really, like back then I didn't really go to my friends for advice because they kind of saw it anyway, and we would already talk about it after anyway, do you know what I mean? So it wasn't something that I really done, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you're 16. Talk to me about that day.
Yeah, so I was 15 actually.
Oh,
and
15.
Yeah, so it was my first time drinking. Me and my friends, like we went to this party and we had a whole bottle of wine to ourselves, so that's quite a lot. And I started feeling a bit sick, so I threw up in one of the girls' toilets. She's my friend, but we're not like close or anything, but yeah, I was throwing up in her house, and I was like, obviously like that's not something you want. And she was basically like, you need to get out, like my parents just like, you know, that's one thing I didn't want anyone to do, like throw up. But it's like, well, if you're drinking alcohol, that's gonna happen, especially if there's like kids involved, do you know what I mean? That's already like kind of illegal, do you know what I mean? Well, it is illegal, isn't it, to have underage kids drinking at your house? So I was like, okay, whatever. But I was not gonna go home to those Asian parents. There was no way I was going home drunk, like no. So I asked one of like my exes to pick me up, and he was like, he had a friend that drove, and I was like, okay, like can you come pick me up please, because he's the one that dropped me anyways. And he was like, please, like if you need to like be safe, just let me know, you know. I was like, okay, cool, whatever. He was a little bit older, as you can probably figure out right now. But I was like, okay, whatever. And yeah, he came and picked me up, and he was just like, okay, I'm gonna take you home. And I was like, no, I'm not going home. He was like, can we just drive around for a bit? And he was just like, no, like you're gonna go home. And I was like, no, I'm not going home, seriously, I'm not going home. Anyway, as that happened, one of my best friends at the time rang me, and she was just like, oh, I heard you just got kicked out of the party, like what are you doing now? And then I couldn't even speak. I was just like, oh, I'm just with him, like I don't know what we're doing, his friends just driving us around, I don't know where we are. And she was like, Dinusha, come home now. And I was just like, I'm not going home. And she's like, no, come to mine, you can stay at mine. And I was like, no. And then she was like, just come see me then, because she was just trying to get me to get there, because she didn't really like the guy that I was with anyway. And yeah, she was like, yeah, come see me. And I was like, okay, cool, like it's the place that we all grew up at, like we went to school there. So I was like, okay, I'll go there, and her mum can pick us up. And my mum really trusts her mum, so she was like, okay, like come. And I was like, okay, cool, I'll see you in like 10 minutes. Anyway, get there. And I thought we were just going to say hi and that was it, and then I was going to go back with him. And then them two got into a bit of an argument, and she was like, he was basically like, no, I'll take care of her, I'll take her home, like don't worry. And she was like, I think she'd be more safe with me than some fucking older guys, like. And she looked in the car at all the guys, and he was like, okay, yeah, you can take her. Kind of like she mugged him right off, do you know what I mean? So he was like, okay, whatever. He was like, if you need a lift though, just let me know, I'd rather take you home safe. And he was like, just make sure you take care of her, because she's like, you know, she's drunk. And she's like, yeah, I will. And like that was it, left it like that. Anyway, then she was with some of the boys that bullied me, because I don't know why I even got out the car, to be honest. And they were all quite horrible, I'm not gonna lie. There's only a few from that day that actually stayed, like came back to normal and started being nice to me, do you know what I mean? And all the others, they carried on even after my accident, and that's something like I could never forget, you know. And anyway, yeah, so I'm at this point, I'm drunk, obviously, like I said, and I took my heels off because I couldn't walk in heels, and I had a short dress on. I was paralytic drunk, and I took my heels off, started walking down the high street. Everyone was going to go get the train, and some of the parents were picking them up from the station, so that was like a meeting point for everyone to go home, because it was like, I think it was like 9 o'clock at night, and that's quite late for 15-year-olds to be out anyway. And yeah, we go to the station, everyone's talking outside the station. There's at least 10 of us, I'm pretty sure. I don't remember every single one of them. And there's like 3 of my close friends at the time there. And they're all talking outside because they all get on, but I don't really get on with any of them apart from the friends I've got there. And when I took my heels off, one of the guys was like, "Why did you take your heels off? We're not in your country." And that really hit me right there. And I was just like, oh my God, like, why are you still being nasty? I'm having a good time, like laughing around, you know, just got drunk for the first time, and it's just like, it's a nice feeling. I felt good at that point. But what I didn't realise is that I was still that depressed girl. Do you know what I mean? So when a comment like that comes to me, that makes me depressed, because I'm still going through the fact that you lot are picking on me. Do you know what I mean? So that really just hit me, and I was just like, okay, whatever. I just walked off from them. And I still carried on with, like, no, actually, I think I put my heels on, but one of them, like, I was walking on the edge of the track, and that's when one of the heels fell on the track in the middle of it, and I just, like, kind of looked around, and I just went, I'm gonna go get it. Like, didn't ask anyone. I just got down in the middle and got it, and then, like, I think I was shouting, like, you know, when you're drunk, you just start, you know, look at me, and they all turn around. They were like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Like, the train is 2 minutes away, and I was just like, oh, sorry, like, I didn't realise. And they were like, okay, come back up though. And I was like, okay, fucking hell, calm down. I was like, why do you care anyway? You've just been rude to me. And he was just like, but come back out. And I was like, okay, whatever. Gave me his hand, went to give my hand to him, and that's when he saw me, like, shaking, and that's when he, like, kind of, he didn't even touch me, but he, like, let go. He was like, what? Like, what the fuck? So that's when I collapsed on the floor and just started shaking, and just, like, collapsed on the floor and just was shaking for ages. I think for like 5 minutes, that's what they told me. And apparently I was going like that, like, let's say these are like the tracks in the middle, and I'm just in the middle like this, like going back and forward, which I'm so shocked that it didn't get my face, because you're literally shaking, do you know what I mean? So it's just mad that
so you've got an electric current going through
yeah, because obviously it started from the foot, you can see it from there, like that little scar.
Oh, wow.
And then it started shooting out of like these two, like, can you see those 2 places, and my toes, and that's where it started. It shoots out on like random places, like it shooted out of my leg, and then it shooted out of my like armpit, like here.
Wow.
Because the electric is going through it, so it has to come out somehow. But they also said, the one thing they did say to me is that me wearing a short dress has helped me from gaining any more scars, because that would have been more material. Like, if I was wearing something like this, it's most likely I'd be burnt everywhere, because the clothes and stuff, you know, would get burnt and stuff. So I had like the shortest skirt from Primark.
Where was the most damage?
Oh, my arm and my back, I'd say.
Can we see your arm?
Yeah, of course. So that's my arm. Like, I don't know if you can really see it. Yeah. But yeah, I'll have like muscles damage as well there. Like, yeah, I had nerve damage. That's the one thing I remember. And yeah, I just remember when I like shut down, my whole body shut down, and I was just like, I'm gonna die. And the first 3 people I thought of was my ex at the time, because he literally was like, I'll keep her safe. Do you know what I mean? That just kept on going through my head, and it still does sometimes. I'm like, oh, like, if I didn't get out of the car, that wouldn't have happened. But I can't live like that. Do you know what I mean? And my best friend at the time, screaming, bless her, like, we really went through it, me and her. Like, we're not friends anymore, but I'll always have that love for her. Do you know what I mean? And then, yeah, my mum because I was like, oh my gosh, she'd be so fucking disappointed in me right now. Like, and like when I said that, actually in one of the videos I said it on TikTok, I was like, oh, my parents would be disappointed in me. And everyone was like, why would they be disappointed in you? And I'm like, because you don't understand. Like, they've always loved the way my brother was going about life, but they never really been proud of me. So I felt like, oh, I'm a disappointment to them. Do you know what I mean? That's how it felt like at the time anyway. And yeah, that's what went through my head before my whole body shut down. And I was like, I'm dead now. Like, there's no way. Like, I actually felt like I was going to die. Like, there's no way someone would survive something like that. Do you know what I mean? And it was quite quick. The way it happened, I was getting shocked, electrocuted, and I was trying to fight the fact that this is happening.
Was you in pain?
I was in pain after, I would say. But at the time, I didn't really feel it. But when I say this to people, they're like, how did you not feel it? I'm like, because I think it's because I was drunk. Like, I only have little bits of the day that I remember what happened. Do you know what I mean? Or that night, I have little bits of it. And sometimes, even now, it comes up to me. I'm like, oh, I remember that. Where have I seen that from? Like, and then I think, oh, that was the day of the accident. Like, it took me a while to get all the bits of that day. I've also had to speak to people that were there and find out what they saw. But because we all kind of went our separate ways, I never get to saw them and speak to them about it. And it was a traumatic thing for them. So I don't really want to bring it up when I've given you that trauma. Do you know what I mean? But there was a girl that I saw last year or the year before, a pub near the area. And she was like, oh my God, how you been? Like, obviously, like, she was just like really nice. And I was like quite good friends with her at the time. And we were talking about my accident, like, because that's like the main thing she's gone through with me. And she was like, yeah, I remember that day. And then like she told me little bits about it, and I'm like, oh, I did think that happened. And then she was like, yeah, like that did happen. I'm like, oh, like, I'm so glad that you told me. Like, I thought I was just seeing that in my head. And then she was like, honestly, you should be so proud of you, like, and just being really nice. But yeah, and then the day, anyway, after going back to the day that it happened, so at this point I'm like, okay, I just died pretty much for a good bit, and then I woke up to this massive light on, like, in my face, and like, but my eyes weren't open, and I'm like laying down, and someone's telling me to get up, and I'm like, what? Like, why am I getting up? And there was no one there. Like, you know what they say, like, there's something out there. I actually believed that after that day. I'm not gonna lie, because there was a shadow, but there was no person. It didn't look like a person, but there was something telling me to get up, and there was this bright light that I couldn't see, no shadow really. It was kind of like built as a human, but wasn't built as a human. It was really weird. Like, I'd never really like fully processed that part, and I only recently started talking about it because I was just like, I don't want people to think I'm crazy, so I never really spoke about it. Only my close friends and family know about it. And yeah, only recently I started like telling people, oh yeah, like there was something to telling me to like get up, and it's not your time yet. And I remember like waking up, and I was like what am I doing here? Like, why am I here? Anyway, my phone started vibrating. I forgot that I had my phone, and it was right next to me. And I looked at the number, and it was like my ex calling me. And obviously, I'm guessing he obviously realised at the time what happened and stuff. And I'm trying to grab my phone, and I'm like, can't grab my phone. My arm wasn't moving because it was like nerve damage. Like, everything was out, like blood, everything you can think of. Like, you could see the inside of my it's disgusting. It was honestly so disgusting to see it. The smell of it didn't go for fucking at least a month.
Wow.
Like the burn smell and the warm smell.
Looking at yourself and you're like blown apart a little bit.
Yeah,
like,
no, it was. I felt like I was in war. Like, you know how like honestly, it does feel like that. It must have been scary. Yeah, it was, and I couldn't move my arm, so I didn't see, because it was still kind of dark. It was like 9 o'clock at night.
What about the train? Wasn't a train coming?
Yeah. The train, they had to stop it. That actually, going back to that as well, there was only one boy, and I'll always like thank him for it, because without him I probably would have died, because imagine the train come, that's it now. Do you know what I mean? And luckily it wasn't the underground. Imagine it was the underground, there's no way of stopping that stuff. Do you know what I mean? But because it was a train and it's like normal speed and stuff like that, he stood at the end of the train like track, and then and he was just like going like that to the train, was like, stop it. And then the other, I think he was still on the phone to 999 telling them to stop the train. They were like, we can't do it. And then he rang the emergency button, and they said, oh, it's literally like a minute away, there's not much we can do. And then he was like, what do you mean there's not much you can do? Like, tell someone that they need to stop the train. They're like, yeah, but by the time we do that, the train will already be there. And he was like, oh, fuck, like, what do I do? And then he stopped in the middle and just going like that, and they obviously like stopped and like stopped it. And that was the lucky part as well. Like if he wasn't there, because they're all 15-year-old kids. Do you know what I mean? What are they supposed to do? No one knows. Like unless you're an adult and you're thinking, actually, I need to do something. No one's gonna know. But he was obviously thinking like an adult and was like, I can't just stand here and scream. Nothing's gonna get done if you're screaming. Do you know what I mean? Like he's actually gone out of his way to do all that. And that was really nice of him. But yeah, he honestly like saved my life that day. I'd say 100%. Because
do you still speak to him?
I was never like close to him. He was just like in the group. Like we never really spoke. He was never really nasty either. Like little comments here and there. But I forgive people like that. You know, I don't really. It's not something that I'm like, I'm gonna hold it against you. Like you literally helped my life. Like you literally. Without you, I probably would have been dead, most likely. Do you know what I mean? And like the fact that you didn't end up being horrible back after my accident was just like, you know what, we all deserve a second chance. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, I don't really care what happened before. We were kids at the end of the day, and that's that. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, he definitely saved my life a lot. Like
so what happened after the incident, Dinusha? Like in terms of, do you remember the ambulance coming? Did people obviously stop the electrics? Who got you off the tracks and all of that?
So after I had obviously the accident, then they picked me back up. I basically, after they said, oh, don't move from the tracks, because I basically was like, why can't I move my arm? Because I was trying to get my phone. That's when I found out, and the ambulance lady was like, just stay there, we're going to get you in a minute, like just don't panic. And then I'm like, she told me not to panic. When someone tells you not to panic, you're going to panic more, aren't you? And she basically was like, oh, don't panic. And I'm like, okay, I started panicking. And then I looked at myself and I was like, I can't move myself. And I just kind of fainted again. And I think another 5 minutes later, they got me up. And obviously because they were moving my body, I woke up again. And all I saw, all these people, there was at least about 50 people there, like outside the station. Saw my best friend crying, and then I saw my ex from the distance, and he told me later on what happened. Like he literally was like, it better not be her, and she just kind of nodded, like my mate, because it was quite traumatic. Because then he went around the corner and started crying. He was like, I literally wanted to take her home, and like I argued with her mate, and now she's in this situation. Like he felt guilty for it as well, and so did she though. Like they both felt guilty for it. They were both doing something good, but it both ended up backtracking and just, do you know what I mean? It's none of their faults at the end of the day. It was my own, do you know what I mean? Personally, I'm not going to blame anyone, but the way some people made me feel that day, like, you know, it's not nice feeling, and I will never ever forget them. Like I won't even forgive them, just because of how shit they made me feel at that point in my life. And the thing is, people are always like, oh, you should forgive and forget. No, I'm good. I'm quite stubborn when it comes to, like, you have to really do me dirty for me to actually not ever speak to you again, or pretend like you don't even exist to me, because that was a big part of my life. And the fact that you nearly saw me dying, and then even after my recovery carried on being horrible, that is just insane to me. Like, I don't care if you was 15, I don't care if you was 16, you know when something you're doing is wrong, do you know what I mean? And at that point, you should have thought about that, do you know what I mean? Like, oh my god, she just had an accident, we made her feel shit on that day. Wouldn't you think, oh, actually, like, we should stop? But no, they carried on even worse after that. So it's like, I don't forgive certain people I forgive, but there's so much you can do, and after as well, like, no thanks, I don't want to ever speak to you again.
How's that situation shaped your life?
Just
that whole scenario happening of just that one day. Do you think you was going a different way in life, and has that, because you were on the brink of death?
I feel like there's like, now I look back and I think there was a purpose, and this is where I'm supposed to be now. Do you know what I mean? And my like idea of it now is to try help as many people as I can, to tell them how bullying and having scars doesn't define who you are. Do you know what I mean?
And how do you communicate that?
So I was trying to plan something for this year, but it's most looking like next year now. But I want to do like school assemblies. Obviously, I like to do it for free. I don't mind. Do you know what I mean? I want to like
Love that.
teach kids that it's not nice to be picked on, and if you're getting picked on, personally, obviously you'd have to do it in a professional way, do you know what I mean? But just always go to the teacher and make sure that even if it's the slightest little thing, just mention it to the teacher, because then at least someone knows, and then at least you know that you've told someone, or tell someone that you trust. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you don't trust your parents, go to an older sister, younger sister, someone, do you know what I mean? That you can be like, you know, I've tried. So if the next step is like me getting in trouble, at least you know why that happened. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously I'd have to like go about it a bit more professional, but yeah, it's try to teach kids about the dangers of the trains, because I still like, I forgot to say, but basically after my accident, like 3 or 4 weeks later, I wanted to get the train, because it's not the train that I was scared of. Do you know what I mean? The trains haven't traumatized me. It's more like the electric that has traumatized me. Like when I see like little electric shoots coming out of it, that's when it's like, oh, like it cringes me out, because I know how it feels getting electrocuted, and it's horrible. So that's what scares me. It's not the actual trains. I got a train straight after and I felt fine. Do you know what I mean? It's the tracks that scare me. But yeah, this boy got on the tracks to get his ball. I was like, oh my God, I'm not like, and even my friends were like, oh my God, don't look, Noosh. And I was just like, what do you mean don't look? Say something. Do you know what I mean? Like, you guys seen me. And I literally just went, excuse me, can you get off the tracks? And I was like, do not put your foot on that like thing. And he was just like, oh, okay, yeah. And then he like jumped like on the thing. Anyway, he got back up and he was like, are you the train girl? I'm like, I literally looked down and I was like, if you think I'm the train girl, why would you do that? Do you know what I mean? Why would you do that? And he was just like, oh, well, it's not 2 minutes away. I'm like,
wow.
I literally just felt mugged off, and like it was just like, what the fuck? Like, and kids don't think about shit like that. Do you know what I mean? They're just like, think, oh, if that's not 2 minutes, then it's fine. It shouldn't be. Like, obviously, that it might have been fine, because it's not exactly, because they said to me that the only time the electric goes through is if it's like a couple of stops away, like especially when the train, like normal trains, that's when the electric could get to you. But if it's not, then it should be all right. Do you know what I mean? But it's not something. I
won't try it.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. I don't want to be like, oh yeah, no, it's fine, because it's like 10 minutes away. Like, no, still don't do it. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, that ball, it's not worth nothing. Do you know what I mean? Your life is like, it's worth more. And yeah, that was quite scary actually, because I was like, oh my God, like, this just happened to me a month ago, and I'm seeing this. I'm like, oh my God. And that's when I thought to myself, I'm like, I could teach kids stuff like this. Like, I want to do that when I'm older. And I never thought of how to go about it. And before my accident, I used to be that girl that used to take pictures all the time of myself. I just enjoyed taking pictures, whether it's of myself or like food or places. I just always enjoyed that. That was like one of my passions. So that's why the whole influencer thing comes along. And I'm like, okay, like, I'm taking cute pictures, I'm posting about my life, why not make something out of it? And then that's when I slowly, and then it got to the point, it started off as being like looking sexy on Instagram, and that's when I started posting like sexy pictures. And then I was like, oh, I feel shit about that, so like, I don't really want to post loads of lingerie and bikini pictures for everyone to see. That's when the whole OnlyFans came to my head, and I thought, oh, why don't I let people pay if they want to see lingerie and bikini pictures for anything, whether it's for a modelling casting or something, like, I don't know, or just for people to be weird. Then I'll just start charging for that. So I stopped doing as many like lingerie and stuff. I still post them, don't get me wrong, on my Instagram, but it wasn't something I wanted to carry on doing all the time. I don't want to be known as the hot girl, or like, do you know what I mean? I want to be known as someone that I am. Like, for example, if someone said, oh, that's the train track girl, or that's the girl that got electrocuted on the train track, that's more for me to be like, that actually did happen. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's nice for people to know me as that person than to be like, oh, that's that girl that like posts like, you know, what every other girl posts on social media. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, and that's when I started obviously talking about it a bit more. And there was this one TikTok that I'd done, and it went viral. I think I had like 500,000 views, or even more. I think like got to like 1 million views, and then people were commenting, like especially school kids. They were like, "Oh, she was on our assembly this morning," and I'm like, "Oh my god!" And that's when the whole assembly thing came to my head, and I was like, "I should do assemblies. I've never done one, but I'd love to do that. Go to different schools in even near the area and just like go teach them and tell them about." Because it's not just about train tracks accident. That's not the whole thing. Like, talk about bullies and how it can affect someone mentally, and like, you know, how to overcome it and stuff like that. I just would love to talk about that more in schools and stuff. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to achieve, to just like teach people about the dangers of the train tracks, bullying, and like even growing up at home, stuff like that, you know. But mostly, yeah, the train tracks and bullying, that's like to do with the schools. So I'd like to teach people about that, you know.
I love that. Something I want to share with you also is growing up in East London wasn't the easiest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was really, really, really tough.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Every day, like, as soon as I started secondary school, my nickname was Fat Boy.
Really?
And every single day I'd get bullied. So many different things have happened and stuff like that. Broken noses, you'd go toilet, somebody spit in the back of your head or throw water on you, or there's 5-6 boys ready to rush you on the way home, and every day felt like you had to survive. So I know exactly what you know are saying when people can be bullies and bring you down, etc. And you know, I did tell my parents, and my mum would come down with me to try help me. But you know, there were certain situations, like some of the people I went to school with were some of the biggest notorious gangsters in East London, or the biggest suppliers really, and I didn't know I was going to school with them, or who they were, or who their brothers, or you know, etc. was. So it was really, really horrible. So another thing that I'd love to add on to that is sometimes just change your environment.
Yeah,
you know?
No, that's so true. Yeah,
you can try to get away from it and tell your parents and teachers, but sometimes you can only get so far, and you're not running away from a situation. You know, it's not you're being a pussy about it or something. Sometimes you're just not right for that environment as well. You're not rough and tough like and handle yourself like the other people can. Maybe you know, you deal with things differently, and maybe because I know other people who didn't have the same experience but were from the same area but different schools, and I was like, how comes they had a completely I thought it was normal, because these things can have a real traumatic effect
100%,
in your life as you're growing up. And you know, there's certain things that you do, like you said, like somebody reached over to you and you flinch. It's like, hey, somebody, even when you get into an argument later in your life, you think, are there going to be 3-4 boys come and beat me up now? You know, you have certain illusions, these fears that that's going to happen now, or that could happen now, and that causes anxiety, and that stops you taking your eye off the ball when you really want to actually do something with your life, but you get distracted with all this other thing going on, and you're taking, you know, a detour to exactly where you want to get to, and it takes longer than it actually should, right?
No, that's so true. No, because it does, like, I do feel like a lot of things that has happened, like especially the bullying and like my mum and that, and even like getting into toxic relationships, has affected me a lot. Like all that, I was going through that from like the age of 13 till like the age of 17. And then when I got to 18, I actually met the partner that I'm still with now, and everything changed. Like it literally takes one person to be like, you know what, I'll deal with your crazy ass, and I'm fine with that, as long as you just change yourself as well, and you want to change. Do you know what I mean? And I wanted to change. And I wanted to change. Sometimes
you get attracted to the toxicity of
things.
I
do.
Because
trust me,
you know, when you haven't got a good home life and you see two people arguing, there's certain belief discs that get downloaded into yourself. No, that's something that's normal, and you're not happy until you hear that. So sometimes you can be with a really nice guy and you're like, this is fucking boring. You know, there's no drama, there's no until you have the argument, you're like, all right, cool, now we can make up. Do you know what I mean? Like
before, I'd say even he has changed the way he is, like in the sense of like, you know, before he'd be like, let me walk all over him, where now he doesn't. Like, and it's good because you don't want everyone to walk all over you. And even his friends say it's good that you don't, because he's too nice. He was really too nice when I first met him, And I'm not saying that's a bad
You
thing.
spoiled him.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing, but like I just feel like he wasn't really standing up for himself when it came to like either friends or me, for example. Like now he knows how to actually deal with it. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes it's a bit too much, but like it's fine. We can cope with it. Like you cope with me, so I can cope with you. It's fine.
You find your dance partner.
But I know what you said earlier is so true. Like if you grow up in a toxic environment, you do want to deal with the toxicity that comes into your life. Do you know what I mean? And it's not because most of the time it's not even because you want to, but it's because what you're used to. Do you know what I mean? Like for example, like my mum was really upset when I was with my ex because he was like just not abusive like physically or anything, just mentally. He just used to always be around loads of girls, and you know she didn't like that, and why would you, do you know? And she just wanted me to get rid of him, and I was just like, it's nothing to do with you. Like literally I was like, you're with dad, he beats you up and you still stay with him.
Wow.
And that to her, she was like, yeah, well yeah, she can't say anything. Do you know what I mean? And like it sounds deep, but like that's just what I wanted to do at the time. And she, at one point, she used to get involved so much to the point like me and her started getting really bad with each other. So she just let me do my thing until I realised that actually he's not the right person for me, and just walked away one day. Do you know what I mean?
I think people got to be mindful of, you know, when they're in a relationship and they've got kids, how they act around each other, because they believe that, oh, I'm going to stay together for the children.
Yeah,
but they don't realize that actually staying together is causing more issues and toxicity, and putting certain beliefs into them kids rather than living separately, and they're dealing with a lot more calmness.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And stillness.
That's what I think.
You know?
Like it's not judging anyone, but like for example, my ex, he has a kid, and like he's still with the mum that he had a kid with, but they break up all the time, and they're always so bad with each other. And like I still hear it, and I'm like, what is that kid going through? Like bless the kid. Do you know what I mean? I was just like, it's not healthy to be with someone. If you're toxic, it's not healthy just to stay with someone just because you got a kid with them. Like there's just no point, is there? Like me, don't get me wrong, me and my partner have had our ups and downs, you know, but like we're not physical with each other. We're not like, and if we argue, most of the time we argue outside when the kids are not there or something. Do you know what I mean? Or like we just won't talk to each other until the kids are gone. Do you know what I mean? And that's what you have to, like, people are allowed to argue in this way of expressing things, but if you're going to keep shouting all the time, that kid is going to take that energy, and then that kid is most likely just going to end up like a mini you know? And do you really want that? No.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Thank you for sharing that. I've got one last question. If I'm a small influencer and I've got about 10,000 followers, starting to get some views, and I'm like, right, so people have noticed me, a few celebs have followed me or liked my stuff, I'm creating some bubbling little noise around me. How do I reach out for some collaborations? How do I reach out to any brands or get in the right, are there any apps, any agencies or any people that I need to be around, or any events I need to go to? How do I create that?
Yeah, so with reaching out with restaurants and brands, you can actually do that yourself. You don't really need an agency or anyone to help you with that.
What sort of brands of restaurants would you reach out to? Big chains?
I'd say always start with the small businesses, I'd say. But then also, because they're small businesses, most likely sometimes they won't always want that, because they're always small as well. But I started off as small businesses, like I'd be like, oh, I can promote your clothes, and then I'll tag you, and then you'll get something out, like whether it's followers or engagement or something, you'll get something out of it. And like I remember doing one, and I think she only had like 1,000 followers on her clothing brand, and I'd done it for her, and she actually got one more order because of me, like, wow. Which, you know, that helped. But at the time I only had like 6k or something like that, so I didn't have that much, but she got something out of it. Do you know what I mean? And then, you know, that other person could somehow get another person to buy. You just never know, like, where it could go. So I'd say just write a formal email, keep it short, keep it simple, know what you're saying and what you're trying to give them and what they can give you in return. And yeah, just make it quite specific, and then just send the email, and then they'll either say, oh no, we're not looking for anyone at the moment, or they're like, oh, what are you thinking, what have you got in mind? And then you just say, oh, would love to promote your clothes for free, and I'll return a tag on my post and on my story or whatever you want to do, and then that's it, and then that's your deal done. Same with like restaurants, the same situation in that. When it comes to events, it is a lot harder to get invited. Like me and Melly, we just reach out to so many like events people, that once you get your foot in one event and one agency, like little agency, then the other agency will start reaching out to you and like, oh, do you want to come to this one? And then the other one will be like, oh, do you want to come to this one? And there's like, now you've got 5 agencies that are reaching out to you saying, do you want to come to this event? Do you want to come to this event? And if you go to all of them, then you meet more people. And that's how we made it into the sense of like the event stuff. Like it's quite easily done nowadays. Where back then it was really hard for me and Mel to even get one event. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, once you do 1 or 2 that are good ones, then you'll get it pretty much coming to you. Like, especially if you post enough as well. Do you know what I mean? You have to make your page interesting as well. You can't just expect, oh yeah, they'll invite me, it's fine, I'll just sit down and relax. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to make your page interesting, have a niche. But I don't think you really need a niche, like, because with me, I post everything. I post about my life, I post about my kids, I post about like body positivity stuff, like music videos, just modeling. And my page is about everything. Like, I'll post anything and everything. And sometimes people like that because they want to see the real you as well. They don't just want to see the same boring stuff that you post all the time. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't really think you need a niche. I just think like, yeah, you just have to be professional and go about it the right way, you know? And then, yeah, you'll get there. But yeah, I think reaching out to brands and restaurants, I don't think it's that hard. It's just, you just have to keep an email short and simple, and they'll know what you're talking about. And
is it better email or DM?
I think email's better because it's more professional, so it looks like you're actually more involved in the industry as well. But DMing is good as well. I mean, I used to do both, to be fair. It's not just like one place that I used to go to, but yeah. And it's also good to like look up on LinkedIn. Like, if you're looking for a specific event that you know that's coming up, look on LinkedIn to see who the person that deals with it is, or anyone in that team. Do you know what I mean? And you can reach out to them and they'll send you to the right person.
Nice. Is there any question you have for me?
Not really, no. Yeah.
Nice. Well, this has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for coming all the way from where you have. I know it's taken you a few hours to get here today, but it's been an absolute pleasure. You've shared so many details about relationships, bullying, and you know, a little bit about the influencing, working with Acorn. It's been a real journey having you on today. It'll be great if you look straight into your camera and just let everybody know how they follow you and anything that you've got coming up, maybe. Yeah, so my Instagram and TikTok is Dinusha XO. I have quite a few modelling shoots coming up, but I can't really share it at the moment yet. But if you follow me, you'll be able to see it. And there we go, guys. Look at the diversity we have on this podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure having our guest on today. I know I've learned a lot, and I know a lot of yous are also influencers. So, you know, there's some real gems in there for you. And maybe you could relate on something that Dinusha's been through today as well. But we've got to give thanks for life. And if you've watched this, please make sure you don't just subscribe, because 89% of you are not doing it anyway. So yeah, you know what I'm saying. So anyway, leave us a comment, please share this with somebody else, and definitely smash that subscribe button. So I'll see you on the next one. Peace.